The Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday night unfortunately didn't last the lightning storm as they dropped a heartbreaker and unfortunately also wasted another Pyotr Kochetkov performance.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everyday for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkeyes, also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a Wednesday edition of the show as we get to talk about how there was another wasted Pyotr Kochetkov performance, get my overall thoughts on the 3-2 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and of course we're also going to hear from Rod Brind'Amour in the postgame. Now, for Pyotr Kochetkov, I mean, he's been playing a lot of great hockey. Of course, he's up again as one of the main finalists for Goalie of the Week last week, where he had a 2.27 goals against average. And in this game, gave up 3 goals, 2 in even strength, 1 in the power play, which was only had 1 second left. And unfortunately, is it a losing effort? And all 3 goals cannot be put on Pyotr Kochetkov because Brandon Hagel's goal, make it 1-0 Tampa. Right in front of the net, had 2 or 3 opportunities to go for extra rebounds, and no one really boxed him out. Nick Paul scores with the second left on the power play, and then basically not boxing out Braden Point. He gets basically right on the doorstep and scores a goal with 51 seconds left on the clock. And Pyotr Kochetkov saved 31 of 34 and had a .912 save percentage. At this point, it's like I don't know what really more you could do for Pyotr Kochetkov because of the fact if you look at between the Columbus game, Minnesota, it's just the last 3 games that he's basically been a part of. For the most part, it's like, well, you maybe 1 goal, maybe that you can say that he really gave up. Other than that, it's pucks going off his skates, getting ran over by your own defenseman, hybrid power plays in the middle of a random, a guy's stick breaks. Then you have basically against Tampa Bay, you have 2 doorstep goals because guys aren't boxing out of the defense. It's interesting how you keep looking. I keep looking at the fact that it's people want to keep saying there's a goaltending issue in Carolina. There's a goaltending issue. They have to shore up their goaltending. They have to go get a legit goaltender. When your main goalie right now is Pyotr Kochetkov, who just had a .912 save percentage, and honestly, on the season overall, with how he's been playing this year, he has a record of 15-9-1 in 26 starts, has a 2.50 goals against, a .902 save percentage with a shutout, and 3 assists. He's already beaten his 22-23 in terms of time on ice and also games played by 2 already. He's already up to 26. He had 42 last year that he played in 4 starts. He's still about 3 shutouts shy of tying his career high in the season. Does have 3 assists this year, but I understand that, every goalie gives up softies. Andrei Vasilevsky's had some bad games. Jeremy Swayman, Igor Shesterkin, who's just got $11.5 million contracts, also had bad games this year for the Rangers. You have a goalie who's exactly the 2.50 goals against average. Yes, it's not a super high or goalie. Yeah, You look at the save percentage, yeah, maybe it's not in the 908 or in the 910s, but it's still above 900. You still have a winning record. You got a 3 assist already this year. You had 2 in one game. Goaltending is not the issue. Like, I know people want to clamor, oh, we need to get a legit number one. He's not in it all these, every single game, but it's like, but you have a goalie who's been playing pretty well, all things considered. Like I said, there's a lot of goalies. When you look around the league, there are starters on other teams. There are some that are in the high 2.7s, high 2.9s, almost in the 3-goal range. I mean, look at Pittsburgh. Their goalies are not that great. I mean, there's goalies right now on some teams that they're, almost ding near into the 3.5, getting closer to the 4 range. The Hurricanes don't really have a goaltending issue. Dustin Karski's been fine when they've had to use him. Pyotr Kochetkov's been playing fine too. It's just one of those things where it's not on the goaltending, and goaltending really, it should not be the automatic, oh, well, if we had a good goalie, we would have more saves and get wins. Yes, that's in some cases, maybe that's the case. But when you have a team in front of you with, bad defensive breakdowns, guys aren't boxing out certain players, or in some cases like Minnesota, they just aren't scoring goals. There's not more you can really do if you're Pyotr Kochetkov, because he played dang near calm, cool, collected like he did, last week, when they played Florida and he got the 3-1 win. He was calm tonight. Really didn't have any issues against Tampa. It's just, unfortunately, guys got open right in front of the goal, and you give them a power play with like 1 second left, which, granted, we'll talk more about the game in general, but I think the narrative of Hurricanes need goaltending doesn't need to be a thing. Maybe if you want to say there is, sure, there can be a conversation, I guess, if you're trying okay, who's like possibly a better tandem, who could they go for next year? It's just, you got Frederik Andersen coming back soon. Tokarski's been fine as the backup. Pyotr Kochetkov's has been having a great season overall. Maybe it's not the best season ever, but he's been playing pretty solid. It's just, unfortunately, the team in front of him still can't figure it out. Like, yes, you're down 1-0, you tie it. You're down 2-1, you tie it. You lose in a back-breaking fashion with 51 seconds left, just because of some breakdowns. It's just, like I said, Pyotr Kochetkov has been playing some great hockey. You got to figure out the other parts of the game where either the team starts slow, sometimes the effort's not there. In this game, you got Vasilevsky, because it's Andre Vasilevsky. He's won cups for a reason. In Vezinas, it's another game where Pyotr Kochetkov could do pretty much everything he could other than score goals, and it's another wasted effort for him, where it's like you have a .912 save percentage. Usually that's a pretty good job. You're going to win the game. Unfortunately, it's not the case. You're 24-15-2. You have another set of back-to-backs later this week with Toronto and Vancouver after you just had 2 games. It's including the Tuesday night game against Tampa. You're looking at 5 games in 7 days with 2 back-to-backs in the middle of that. And let's not forget, you got Anaheim coming up on Sunday. So you have a lot of hockey, between this past Saturday and until next Sunday, to the upcoming Sunday. So that's a very good amount of hockey games, and you're trying to figure out how to do that with back-to-backs. And I mean, this team right now is definitely playing in a weird stage of hockey for the last couple months. It's just, like I said, I think right now we have to turn the narrative and stop it from being and say we need to figure out goaltending to We got to figure out the team as a whole of why there's so much disconnect from game to game where it's like you go beat Florida, you get shelled by Minnesota, then you come and beat Pittsburgh in overtime, and then you come play Tampa, and that's a game where you should have gotten a point. Now you got Toronto, Vancouver coming up, and right now, those are two games that you're definitely you have to get wins out of them. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out. But honestly, all things considered, I think it's just this is another game over the last few weeks where this is not on Pyotr Kochetkov. It's not a goaltending thing. It's an overall team mentality thing with the guys in front of him because he can only do so much outside of scoring goals. So if there want to have a conversation with goaltending, fine, but I don't think it's the main issue. It's not the main issue. It hasn't been the main issue for a while now. It's so easy to look at, oh, well, they gave up 3 goals. It's the goaltender. Or he gave up a couple softies. Or, his rebound control wasn't great. I mean, rebound control for goalies sometimes isn't the greatest. But this is one of those games where it's not on Pyotr. It just really isn't. So, but there's a lot more to the game, and we're going to go over that here in a second, so stick around as we'll talk about that in the second segment here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Now, we kind of talked about how Pyotr Kochetkov had a great game overall. This is not really a game that's on him, but now let's actually talk about the game. So the Hurricanes did lose 3-2 in the makeup game that was supposed to be back in October. Now they had to play it on a Tuesday night, basically splitting up the 3 days off they should have had in between the back-to-backs. Hurricanes, were outshot by Tampa 34-32. And the face-off, the Hurricanes won 57.7% of their face-offs. I would hit Tampa 24-19, only was down by 1 block shot, 14-13. One of the main things from this game was the fact that it took until a minute and 31 seconds left in the second period for the Hurricanes to get their lone power play of the game. So you're telling me a team like Tampa, who basically is always somehow in the middle of a scrum after every whistle, and how there was definitely some missed calls in this game, how they had 1 single penalty, and that was for a hooking, but the Hurricanes will have 3 straight penalties, and there'll be less than 2 minutes left in the second period before they got their first one. And unfortunately, Tampa did take advantage of it, and that's the one thing I said. It's got to be, if it's a special teams battle, you got to win it. Unfortunately, you play with fire for so long, and you got burned, and basically that's what they did with a second left. Yeah, the Hurricanes do go 2 for 3 on the penalty kill, but you kind of wish they went 3 for 3 because right now, before that goal, since December 1st, the Hurricanes are at a 92.3% in terms of the penalty kill, which is first in the entire league. Power play wise, I mean, you only get 1 opportunity. What can you really do? And the bad thing is, it's just, you have 2 shots on goal. I think over the last, 4 or 5 games, the Carolina Hurricanes are 0 for their last 11 on the power play. While it's still top 10, almost close to being top 5 in the league, I mean, you can't score on every power play. But when you're on an 0 for 11 run, that's definitely not good. And it really makes you miss Shane Gostisbehere of how much of a quarterback he is on that power play. Now, the guys who are filling in are still doing a pretty decent job, but you can definitely tell the power play is up to the next level when Gostisbehere is in. So having him out right now, it's definitely not really working out in the Hurricanes' favor. It's just, like I said, you can't score on the power play all the time. It is what it is. But like I said, overall, you got the Brandon Hagel goal, you got the Nick Paul goal, then you got Braden Point with less than 52 seconds left. Tampa wins 3-2. They've basically won the season series. Now there's just one game left where now you go back to Carolina on March 11th for 7 o'clock. You've lost 4-1 and 3-2 to Tampa. It's just one of those things to where it's a game that should have been a lot closer, or at least they should have won. At the worst, it should have been a point because it's 2-2. You're about ready to get, you're less than a minute away from overtime, and you give up a backbreaker like that where you get no points. And somehow it's always a team in Florida, either if it's the Panthers or the Lightning, and it's a very late goal with less than a minute left, and it's a dang near a backbreaker, and you get the loss instead of at least getting something out of it, like point or going to overtime and then try to fight for a win, especially if you're in the playoffs. It's one of those frustrating games where it's like you really can't catch a break for the penalties because, like I said, you had 3 in a row. You finally get one with less than 2 minutes left. Only get 2 shots on goal. And outside of that, it's like you're kind of chasing for the most part. You do eventually tie it up, but like I said, you wasted another great opportunity from Pyotr Kochetkov, and it's just you got to buy that guy some wins, and you have to kind of be ready to go from the start. Play 60 minutes, and like I said, it's not one of those games where they got absolutely shelled or they played bad hockey and figured it out. It's just you can definitely tell at times where it's like it's just whatever mental block is going on right now, or just whatever disconnect that's going on. It's not really being beneficial to the team, and it's kind of like, what do you do at this point? And it's just right now you're playing 500 hockey. Like you win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. You win 2, you lose 1, and then it's like you run into this vicious cycle of like you can't string. For the fact that this team was 14-4 at one point, and now they are 10-11-2 in their last 23 games. Yeah, you're still secure third in the Metro Division, but it's like you're playing basically 500 hockey right now. A Gary Bettman 500 because of the shootouts. But if you take the Gary Bettman shootouts overtimes out of the way, you're technically with just wins and losses, you're 10-13 in your last 23 games. That's not good for the Carolina Hurricanes, and that makes you wonder, like, what's this team going to be like when we get to the trade deadline? What happens when we get to the playoffs? It's very, I don't know, because right now it's, yes, you go through, long stretches of bad games. Yeah, you're going to struggle here and there. It's better to struggle now, and then when you get to the playoffs, but at the same time, it's just kind of like you are kind of hoping that eventually something turns around. And that's basically what you have to hope right now for the Carolina Hurricanes. They're not like dead in the water. They're not like the Rangers who just blew a 3-0 lead to Dallas and lost in overtime. Or, you're not, the Ducks or the Sharks or the Blackhawks, or name another struggling team right now. It's like you're not in dire straits. You're not those guys. But it's definitely an aspect of where there's got to be something that's got to get figured out. Because, Andrei Svechnikov, he did score and snapped his 9-game goal drought. That was his first 5-on-5 goal since October, which was like the 4th game of the season. I forget which date it was. Jordan Stahl scored, which is great. But, you're still waiting on, when's Murray Nietzsche's is. Like, I know he did score an empty net goal, but it's like, when's his 5-on-5 coming back? When's he getting back to that hot start that he was? It's just overall, this game was just very frustrating. The fact that the special teams didn't really go well. You give up a late goal. You wasted another great Pyotr Kochetkov performance. It's a culmination of like, this is a game where you should have gotten at least a point. Should have won the game at least. It's just, like I said, if you take out the Gary Bettman overtime stuff, you're 10-13 in your last 23. It's just weird looking at this team under the Rod Brind'Amour era. It's almost like giving the early part of the 18-19 season once again, and it's kind of like, okay, and that was a makeshift team of misfits and some, prospect, guys they drafted, and it's a, a ragtag team that made the deep playoff run. This is a roster that's got a lot of talent. It's just, for whatever reason, after going 14-4, it's just, like I've been saying it for a lot of episodes, and I feel like I'm a broken record. Jekyll and Hyde hockey. It's just not the same every game. It just fluctuates. You don't know what you're going to get. You can't string wins together. And like I said, too, then you might see some points where they might get one, get a couple wins, and then they'll lose one or they'll lose two, and you kind of backtrack. Like, there's a lot of hockey left. You just played 41 games. You got 41 more to go. You're still you're still locked in the third for the most part. It's just, we got to get back to the Hurricanes being more on the 13-10 or 15-10, not 10-13 or 10-11-2. I think something's going to get figured out. They're going to get through this rough patch. It's just something mentally has got to give for these guys to get over that hump and just start stringing together a lot of wins. So, speaking of the players, we actually get to hear from the head coach himself, Rod Brind'Amour, in his press conference. And stick around as we'll listen to that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and the excitement were unforgettable. Now Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets with your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. It's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Well, it's game time. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, at the end of segment 2, we're going to listen to the Rod Brind'Amour press conference and get my thoughts on that after their loss to the Lightning 3-2 on Tuesday night. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now.
Like this one as well.
Yeah, those are the worst ways to lose. You'd rather not even come back because it's just a kick in the in the teeth there. But guys fought back. I didn't like our start. That first goal was not good enough. It was too light around our net. We're just waving sticks around a puck that's just sitting there. So we gave them one, but then we fought back, got ourselves in the game. They got the difference. Power play goal, we kind of just float one in and get a bounce. That's really the difference in the game. So wasn't a lot going on for both teams tonight. Both teams working hard. It just we came up short.
That was kind of going to be my next question because we had spoken after the second period, just fully getting into your game in the third. What did you see in that third period specifically?
That was probably our best period. We were at least had zone time and, it didn't generate a ton of chances, but we weren't giving up much, and that was the key. We got one, got it back, and at least in a position that we could, win the game, but obviously they made a nice play at the end, and, that's the difference.
There was some understandable frustration just from Jordan Staal and his line to end that game, but also him winning those two big draws leading to the goals. Kind of what you see from them tonight.
That's the tough part, right? They had a really good game, and they were our best line and created the goals, like you said. It's just, it happens. Their best players made plays, and that was the difference.
From a positive standpoint, what did you see Andrei Svechnikov able to kind of net one here tonight?
Yeah, it was a lucky goal. It wasn't much of a shot, but like you said, it was the stuff before that where that line generated some zone time and some ozone face-offs, and then they won them, right? And then that's kind of the way the sequence of events works when you're playing good, which they were. That line was solid tonight.
And then finally, obviously the conversation for a while now has been consistent wins. Just in terms of moving forward here tonight, what continues?
Well, it's tough because tonight we played well enough maybe to get something out of that. That's been the story of the season for me, is that when we've lost, we played well enough to get something, but we're getting nothing out of those games. And that's, we got to find a way when we're maybe not even playing our best, but at least get something out of these games, and that's what we haven't done all year.
Big thank you from Rod Brind'Amour of the Carolina Hurricanes for that, as always. And yeah, as you can tell with Rod, it's frustrating for the fact that you come back in the game, lose in heartbreaking fashion, and I think the big takeaway from that was it's where you're looking for the consistent wins in the consistent games, and it's like Rod said, there's some times where the Hurricanes play a great game, it just doesn't go their way, or maybe they're not playing their best, but they've had opportunities and it just doesn't bounce for them. And I think I could definitely agree with some parts of where he's saying it's one of those things where it's you're not really getting the bounces like other teams are. The guys, there's star players in other teams are showing up. You're not really getting, the star aspect from a lot of the guys on the roster every single night. So it's while it's not frustrating in the aspects of, it's how to put it. It's a way where it's like there are some games where it's definitely frustrating to watch, like Seattle, Nashville, Minnesota. But there's also the games they should have won just didn't get the puck luck. There's a lot of close games there where they should have won it or gotten a point out of it and didn't. It's a very weird season for the Hurricanes. You can definitely tell with Rod, it's kind of turning into it's what more can you really do? You can only prepare so much, and you can only throw the guys on the lines that you have, and if they're shooting pucks off of posts and it's hitting other bodies, goalies are just playing great games. You're just not getting the bounces that other teams might be getting. It's just unfortunate circumstances because, hockey's hockey. But I also say too, it's just Rod liked the third period, but didn't like the first period because the team wasn't really going. And that's where it's you really have to get the guys going. This is probably the longest stretch I've seen where this team has gone so inconsistent. And there's definitely something mental going on to where it's just, and after their game, against Minnesota, where Jordan Staal said, it's just, you can't just show up and expect something to happen and not put in the effort. Or maybe it'll click. That just doesn't really happen in the NHL anymore. And it's a tough aspect. It's a tough aspect where you're trying to figure out what to do next and how to get the puck go your way. You're right now not working out for you. So it's definitely one of those things where it's hopefully something breaks. Hopefully the puck luck goes back to the Hurricanes' way. But yeah, as of right now, it's a tough scene to be in. And I do feel while most of the season has been bounces and stuff, sometimes also not working out, I also think the consistent play has to come on the players because you're not getting great performances every single night. It seems like you got most of the team pulling one way, and maybe some aren't. It's just you got to figure out how to get the group back together and get rolling because, like I said, you had an 8-game winning streak earlier this season. I'm not saying you need to go for another 8, but start stringing 3 or 4 wins here and there, and they'll put you in a good spot. But who knows? There's still half a season left. We're not that far from the trade deadline. We're a couple months away. It's just something's got to give and something's got to get figured out. But we shall definitely see. But, guys, that will wrap up a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen today. For your second listen, why don't you go check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey? Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Skill and Flip. Find Unlocked Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. I got links to both of my bios where you can check out my articles at the Hockey Writers, or just find my author page, Zach Martin, at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to check out my other podcast, well, it's just the Searchcast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. for this show. Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe, follow, leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know if you like the show as well. Share with all other Caniacs to become everyday. I hope everyone enjoyed this Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Wednesday. And until next time, as always, let's go Cans.